last. I mean, I would imagine it's not their last ever.
You wrote the script.
Also, it's fair. Also, is the reigning Super Bowl MVP really not a top 10 quarterback? We discussed. However, before we get to any of that, it is a segment Wilds likes to call the friendliest segment in sports TV, but I never agreed to that, bro. And when I told him that I didn't agree to that, he then tried to make it the bad boys segment.
Like that.
And, well, he put on biker gloves and he did all this stupidity.
I kind of liked it.
You liked the meanest?
The electric guitar, whatever that was.
You liked that?
Yeah, I loved it.
Well, then maybe I'll have to bring it back. I didn't know you loved it. So here's the deal. We do this every year right after the finals where we're looking ahead. Some quick rules for it. If you are out for the upcoming season or for the majority of it, we're not ranking you. So that means 4 guys who would have made the hill. Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Kyrie Irving, and Damian Lillard. You won't see them. It's not because they don't deserve a spot. It's because they are out with injury. And it also does assume some level of progression from young players like you normally would have, but it is not massive leaps that we haven't seen. So
but it's based on what they'll do next year.
It's where we see them, right. It's a projection of where we see them going to be next year. It is a 9-level hill. 45 guys plus the 4 guys not there, so it's almost your top 50. All right, bottom of the hill. One of the most controversial inclusions on the King of the Hill years ago. Vindicated Franz. My guy, Franz
I think
Wagner.
you had Mo, though.
No, I had Franz. You called it Mo. Derek White, Domantas Sabonis, Wilds guy, LaMelo Ball. Zubats, maybe the most underrated, awesome season of any player last year. Warrior, not literal, I guess that Warrior is Draymond Green. Basketball Warrior, Aaron Gordon. Julius Randle off an awesome, I thought, season, really good playoff. And I threw Cooper Flagg on there.
Sure.
I think that, I think, he's not going to be an all-star as a rookie. He's not going to be an impact, awesome player as a rookie. But if you are the consensus number 1 pick in a strong draft, those guys typically are right around top 50 players their rookie year. So I don't think that's too high. He's the only rookie that's on the list. I'm sure Parco's got Topic on there somewhere.
Topic should be on there. I thought Kobe White was when you put White. I just saw the last names. Derek White's fine, too.
Okay, yeah. Derek White is Chicago bias showing. All right, 8th row.
White's a nice player.
He is.
I think Brew's going to say I have Ja too low. But I'm only getting 40-some games from Ja, and that's, I'm not even talking about off the court. I'm talking about the injury stuff. De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Maxey, who nobody's kind of image, but star rise was slowed more by Philly's awful season than Maxey. Maxey 2 years ago was like, he was waiting in line club superstar. Then he was off the pages this year. Trae Young, Rudy Gobert, Wilds guy Chet, who I thought had an awesome defensive game 7. James Harden, and then Amen Thompson, who I think could be a defensive player of the year candidate next year if he wasn't already last year. Now to the 7th row, these are guys all in the top 30. Jimmy Butler, and hard guy to rank because you still see peak Jimmy is a top 12-ish player, but as you saw this postseason, you can't rely on that as often as you used to be able to. Evan Mobley, tremendous defensive player. Darius Garland, so back-to-back Cavs. Triple J, another defensive player of the year. Spicy P. I think this might be the highest Pascal Siakam's been on any full league King of the Hill.
Start giving him love.
Right, but fair is fair. He was the 2nd best player and the most consistent scorer on a finalist. Jamal Murray and Bam Adebayo, who at this point I kind of want to see Bam in a different environment. Go ahead.
No, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How strongly did you consider Tyler Hero? Because I don't think he's going to be
he's not on the hill.
No, he didn't make it. I mean, if there was a 10th row, he would have, I'm not being a smartass there, he would have been on there. And I guess we might actually talk about this more with the Drew Holiday, Anthony Simons trade. I'm not huge in the modern NBA on the all I do is score by hitting jumpers guys. And so I get they're useful, but I
mean, that's KD.
Well, KD, but that's
now he's a different level.
Right.
ISO off the dribble.
Yeah, but I just think guys like Tyler Hero. I just think like Aaron Gordon and Derek White are more impactful players than Tyler Hero, and I didn't consider him more than any of the, guys above him. All right, next row, this is now guys 16 through 21. So again, these are guys either inside the top 20 or right barely outside. Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, who I thought had a really impressive postseason run and really good postseason run, some really high highs. J-Dub, who again, I think star has risen over the course of this year as much as just about any player in the league. Jaylen Brown, who that's going to be a big ask for him next year. And then two guys that are really hard how we're going to do the math on. Like Kawhi, we saw how good he was at the second half of this, not even the second half, the last quarter of this season, but still wasn't able to activate peak Kawhi except for that one playoff game. And then what do we do with Embiid, who when he's been healthy has been a consensus top 3 player the last half decade basically, but the health is the biggest concern there is. It felt crazy to put him lower than this, but I also understand he's the least reliable star in the league right now. All right, to your top 15. Victor Wembanyama, I think this is fair. I think people saying he's already a top 8 player in the league is too much projection, and I think keeping him out of the top 15 because he hasn't done it yet is kind of being blind to it. Cade Cunningham, who's newly minted club superstar, as is Donovan Mitchell. Şengün, who is not a box score guy, but Wildes was right about him. I actually think he really impacts winning. I know he had a rough playoff series. I think he is a guy you can build a franchise around.
And the box score is not bad.
No, he's not a huge scorer is what I'm saying. But you're right. He just rebounds and assists. And then Paolo, another guy kind of banging on the door for club superstar. Top 10 players, I can't quit the old guys. I know Brew wants me to quit at least one, maybe two of them. LeBron, Steph, Anthony Davis, and Kevin Durant. Now, Anthony Davis not one of the old guys, but maybe his body's kind of got the older body. Yes. I think you saw it at various points this year, certainly for LeBron and Steph, probably less so for Kevin Durant. But on any given night, those guys can still be the best player in any game against any opponent. I still think in a playoff series, you would love to have any of those 4 guys this moment above any of the guys beneath them. Top 6 players in the league. Luka, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards.
Brunson.
This is the lowest I've had Luka on any hill in forever, but fair is fair. All the guys above him are champions and league MVPs. He's neither. He's got to be there. I have massive respect for what Jalen Brunson's accomplished, proving 2 years ago wasn't a fluke, being another dominant individual postseason run, and Anthony Edwards back-to-back conference finals. And then the real question. How high can Shea climb? For me, Brew, the answer is row 2. Giannis and Shea right next to each other, and I'll be honest, it's not left to right, as you know this. It's not left to right.
I don't know that.
If it were left to right, this is also how it would happen. I think Shea is the 3rd best player in the league. I really think he's the 4th. I think Luka's better, but I can't say that until Luka does something. But so I still think Giannis is the 2nd best guy in the league. And still atop the hill, Nikola Jokic, who I believe for the last 4 years now has been at least the last 3 years, the best player in basketball. Brew, it's a great hill. You can just say it. Wild's not here. You can just say
it's one of your better hills.
Thank you. You know what? What more could I have? It's an okay hill.
Yeah, it's definitely one of your better. I do agree with your top 3 in that order. Jokic, Giannis, Shea, 3rd. I am not the guy to be like, hey, they won the championship. He's the best player in the world. He is awesome. He was a legit MVP. He got my vote, but I still think he's the 3rd best player behind those 2. First of all, you hit it on the head, and I didn't say this before the show. You didn't know. Ja Morant, I think, is going to have a bounce-back year. Okay. And I think he's going to move up. The last month of the season, he didn't do this in the play-in or the playoffs.
Yep.
But the last month of the season, he averaged 30 on like 50% shooting.
Yep.
So I think he's
for an offense he hated, evidently.
Yeah,
like, get him out
right, apparently, right?
Yep.
So he's got to bounce back. It'll be sad if he doesn't and just fades into being
just a good
like
player.
A John Wall. Like, remember how good John Wall was at one point?
Yeah.
So that's number 1. Then I'm moving Wemby up. And this is a projection. I get it if you want to say based on what they've done so far. I'm switching Wemby and Kevin Durant. Because Wemby, now they're going to have some other scores. You obviously got Fox. They're going to draft, it looks like, Dylan Harper, and then we'll see.
And Castle's good.
Yeah, Castle. I mean, it's going to be interesting. They're going to have assets to maybe make a trade or whatever. But I think Wemby's going to give you at least 25. And it'll be more depending on how they run the offense or whatever. His three-point shooting is improving. It already is solid, but it's 35% last year. We know he's going to rebound better than Durant. We know he's going to play much better defense, even though Durant's solid defensively. And then I think he's going to give you essentially the same points. So I'm going to move him ahead of KD. And I may be underestimating Wemby because I think there's a good chance he gets to that third row.
Correct.
Next
I
season.
think I absolutely think that during the year he could rise quickly. But
Yeah.
So let me ask you, how much stock do you put in? Let's just say, let's pretend the blood clot never happened, because I don't think that's the type of.
I think he'd be ahead. I bet you he would have been in your top.
So here's the question though I'm asking. If we just stop his season when he stopped playing and we say we don't think the blood clot's going to be an issue for him, how much stock do you put in the fact that in year 2 he still was having no impact on them winning? Like they were still, we thought last year, didn't we think through there was a chance they would be fighting for a playoff spot? And even if when he went out, that wasn't the case. And they had traded for Fox. So that's the only.
Yeah, I don't punish young players for not. I mean, LeBron didn't make the playoffs his first 2 years,
Yep.
So I just think that, I don't really hold that against him at all. I think, though, he's already doing little on-court stuff.
Yep.
He's been in the weight room. And I think him being in his third year, I bet, now he knows the league. He knows what this guy does, what that guy does, how they're going to guard me. He's seen it all. I bet you his confidence, even coming off the injury, is going to be at an all-time high.
Yeah, it just depends on how much of this is on projection. Because Wembanyama looks like he's going to win the next 5 Defensive Player of the Year awards, maybe the next 10 Defensive Player of the Year awards, right? He might win all of them in his 20s. So how much of the hill is about projection? And the thing with winning with him, Castle was a rookie, De'Aaron Fox was an addition, he's in his second, they were awful when they got Wembanyama. The guys who we now say are pieces around him, he hasn't played with.
No, I get that. I guess, and maybe this is just my own skepticism is the wrong word. I don't like his shot chart. And I think for him to be the guy that he clearly can be, which is the best defensive player in the league and a top 6 offensive player.
He can be better.
Right. Well, but I don't think he can be by trying to emulate a true. He likes threes more than KD does.
Right.
And so because.
No, I agree. He definitely.
He has to leverage the fact that he's 7'6" a little more often. It doesn't mean he has to be down on the block all the time, but just a little more often.
No question.
All right, go ahead, Danny.
Okay. I don't understand. I thought you were an Evan Mobley guy like me.
Well, listen,
I don't know. You're like, Amen Thompson could be a Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
JJJ, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. How about the guy who won Defensive Player of the Year on the 64?
And still gave you 18.
And still averaged a double-double and is still coming into his own offensive game. We can put the thing up just quick. I mean, they would trade Karl Anthony Towns for Evan Mobley like that. Şengün, really nice player. But
Şengün is flatly better and more impactful than Evan Mobley.
No, he isn't. No, he's not. I'm sorry.
I got to agree with Nick on that one.
I'm sorry.
Now, I like Mobley.
Could Evan Mobley be the centerpiece?